Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna.
Omagnaanatimirandasya gnananjana चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगणा ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna, welcome dear devotees for today evening discussion from the Chaitanya Charitamrta, Madhya Lila, that is chapter 1. The Lord later pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So later means after the Lord took sannyas. So the Adi Lila contains the pastimes up to sannyas. Madhya Lila after he takes sannyas and his travel to the field. In this chapter, there is a summary description of all the pastimes performed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during the middle period of his activities as well as the 6 years at the end of his activities. 18 years, 24 years up to sannyas, then 18 years, and then last 6 years. All of these are described in brief. There is also a description of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy that occurred when he recited the verse beginning, Yakamara Haraha, as well as a description of how that ecstasy was explained in the verse beginning, Priya Soyam Krishnaha by Srila Rupa Goswami. Because he wrote that verse, Srila Rupa Goswami was especially blessed by the Lord. There is also a description of the many books written by Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami. There is also a description of the meeting between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, and Srila Sanatana Goswami in the village known as Ramakeli, Malda district. That's Ramakeli, where Rupa and Sanatana were serving under Nawab Hussain Shah as Davidas and Sakarmalli. So by the mercy of the Lord, they got relief from that and they could join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his mission. So this is an interesting section of the Chaitanya Charitamrta.
Yasya prasadat agyopi sadya sarva gyatam vrajet sak Shri Chaitanya Devo me Bhagavan samprasidatu.
Even a person with no knowledge can immediately acquire all knowledge simply by the benediction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is very important. Even a person with no knowledge can immediately acquire all knowledge simply by the benediction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, I am praying to the Lord for his causeless mercy upon me.
Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodita गौडोदये पुष्पवन्तो चित्रो छन्दो तमोनुदो.
So, someone doing the recording or the...
Yeah, it is getting recorded. You can disable waiting room. No?
We are live streaming.
No, you can do if you can.
It's live streaming right now also.
Okay. This is also important verse. I offer my respected obeisance unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. Both sun and moon are required. One is hot and one is cool. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction. So the darkness is in our heart, our consciousness. The benediction is love of God.
जयतां सुरतोपङ्गोर् मम मन्दमतिर्गति मत्सर्वस्वपदाम्भोजो राधा मदन मोहनो.
It's also very important words. Sambandha Pranam, Sambandha the Devi. That is, glory to all merciful Radha and Madan Mohana. I am lame and ill advised, yet they are my directors, and the lotus feet are everything to me. Radha Madan Mohan deities are there. Temple has been established by Sanatana Goswami on the banks of the Yamuna river. And this Madan Mohan represents the Sambandha. Madana is Cupid, and Krishna is the subduer of Cupid. So unless we overcome lust, we cannot take to devotional service. So this Radha Madana Mohan deity represents the Sambandha aspect of the Sambandha, means establishing a relationship with the Lord. Deities for establishing family.
दिव्यत् वृन्दारण्यकल्प द्रुमादः श्रीमद् रत्नाकार सिंहासनस्थो श्रीमद् राधा शील गोविन्द देवो प्रेष्ठालिधि सेव्यमानो स्मरामि.
So next is offering obeisances to the Abhideya deities, deities which represent our acting in that relationship, who guide us in the process of devotion. And a temple of jewels in Vrindavana, underneath a desire tree, Sri Sri Radha Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. So the Radha Govinda deities are opposite to the temple, is opposite to the Upavagata Swami established the Ranganathan temple, the largest temple in Vrindavan. So opposite to that, Radha Govinda temple is there. It was actually very many stories were there, many levels, but this Aurangzeb he destroyed the higher stories. Anyway, this Radha Govinda deities represent the Abhideya, that is the process of bhakti.
श्रीमान् रासरसारम्भी वंशीवटतटस्थितः कर्षन् वेणुस्वनैर्गोपीन् गोपीनाथ श्रियेस्तुतना.
So next is offering obeisances to the Prayojana activities. Prayojana means what is the goal? Goal of devotion is to attain love of God. So this Radha Gopinath. May Gopinath ji, so Radha Govind was established by Rupa Goswami. May Gopinath ji, who attracts all the gopis with the song of his flute and who has begun the most melodious rasa dance on the bank of the Yamuna in Vamshivata, be merciful upon us. So we have that famous song, Radha Gopi. So each deities are worshipped by which Goswami, the song is there.
जय जय गौरचंद्र जय कृपा सिंधु जय जय शचीसुत जय दीनबंधु.
All glories to Sri Gaura Hari, who is an ocean of mercy. All glories unto you, the son of Shashi Devi, for you are the only friend of all fallen souls. So this is also important. The only friend of all fallen souls. So what is fallen? Means we don't do devotion, that is fallen. So even we are not doing devotion, he is coming to help us.
Jaya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Srivasadi Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
All glories to Lord Nityananda, Advaita Prabhu, all glories unto all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya headed by Srivas Thakur.
पूर्वे कहिनुन आदि लीलार सूत्रगान जहाँ विस्तारिया छेन दास वृंदावन.
I have previously described in synopsis the Adilila initial pastimes, which have already been fully described by Vrindavan Das Thakura. Vrindavan Das Thakura has written the Chaitanya Mangala, which later was renamed as Chaitanya Bhagavata. He is the Vyasa of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pastimes. So whatever was not mentioned by him, that was written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Adi, Madhya and Antya Leelas.
अतएव तार आमी सूत्र मात्र कोई लून जे किछु विशेष सूत्र मध्य कोहिलून.
I have therefore given only a synopsis of those incidents, and whatever specifics were to be related have already been given in that synopsis.
एवे को ही शेष लीलार मुख्य सूत्र कौन प्रभुर अशेष लीला ना जाए वर्णन.
To describe the unlimited pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not possible, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pastimes are eternal. They are going on even now. They manifest and unmanifest. That is the only difference. Adhyapi halila hena gauradai kono kono bhagyavai jeki pare pai. So, but I now wish to relate the chief incidents and give a synopsis of those pastimes occurring at the end. Shesh Leela means.
तार मध्य जेई भाग दास वृंदावन चैतन्य मंगले विस्तारी करिलो वर्णन সেই ভাগে ইহা সূত্র মাত্র লিখিব তাহা যে বিশেষ কিছু ইহা বিস্তারিব.
I shall describe only in synopsis that portion which Vrindavan Das Thakura has described very elaborately in his book, Chaitanya Mangala. Whatever incidents are outstanding, however, I shall later elaborate. So he will elaborate on some of the important pastimes.
চৈতন্য লীলার ব্যাস দাস বৃন্দাবন তান্র আজ্ঞায় করুণ তান্র উচ্ছিষ্ট চর্বণ.
Actually, the authorized compiler of the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lila Vrindavan Dasa, the incarnation of Vyasadeva. So he was, his mother was Narayani, who is the niece of Srivas Thakur. Only upon his order am I trying to chew the remnants of food that he has left.
ভক্তি করি শিরে ধরি তাহার চরণ শেষ লীলার সূত্রগণ করিয়ে বর্ণন.
Placing his lotus feet upon my head in great devotion, I shall now describe in summary the Lord's final pastimes. Final pastime means after he took sannyas.
24 বছর প্রভুর গৃহে অবস্থান তাহা যে করিল লীলা আদি লীলা নাম.
For 24 years, that is from 1486 to 1510, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at home, and whatever pastimes he performed during that time are called Adi Lila.
24 বছর শেষে যেই মাঘ মাস তার শুক্ল পক্ষে প্রভু করিল সন্ন্যাস.
So somewhere around the month of February, Lord Chaitanya took sannyas at Katwa. At the end of his 24th year, in the month of Magha, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, the Lord accepted the renounced order of life sannyasa.
সন্ন্যাস করিয়া 24 বছর অবস্থান তাহা যেই লীলা তার শেষ লীলা নাম.
After accepting sannyasa, sannyasa means perfection of life. The ultimate perfection is sannyasa, perfection of renunciation. That's what Krishna will highlight in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Chaitanya remained within this material world for another 24 years. Within this period, whatever pastimes he enacted are called the Shesha Lila, or pastimes occurring at the end.
শেষ লীলার মধ্য অন্ত দুই নাম হয়, লীলা ভেদে বৈষ্ণব সব নাম ভেদ কয়।
The final pastimes of the Lord occurring in his last 24 years are called Madhya, middle, and Antya, final. All the devotees of the Lord refer to his pastimes according to these divisions. So that's what, as we said, 18 years is the Madhya Lila, then last 6 years is Antya Lila.
তার মধ্যে 6 বছর গমনাগমন, নীলাচল গড় সেতু বন্ধ বৃন্দাবন।
For 6 years of the last 24, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveled all over India, from Jagannath Puri to Bengal, and from Cape Cameron to Vrindavan. Cape Cameron means Kanyakumari, the southernmost tip of the Indian peninsula. He went all the way, then came back to Vrindavan. But exactly, he went again to
তাহা যেই লীলা তার মধ্য লীলা নাম, তার পাছে লীলা অন্ত লীলা অভিধান।
all the pastimes performed by the Lord in those places are known as the Madhya Lila. So basically, the Madhya Lila is the touring pastimes, wherever he toured and what all happened. And whatever pastimes performed after that are called Antya Lila. That is after he returns back to Jagannath Puri.
আদি লীলা মধ্য লীলা অন্ত লীলা আর, এবে মধ্য লীলার কিছু করিয়ে বিস্তার।
The pastimes of the Lord are therefore divided into 3 periods: Adi Lila, Madhya Lila, Antya Lila. Now I shall very elaborately describe the Madhya Lila. The Chaitanya Bhagavata is also like that. Divisions are the 3 divisions. That is also around 9 books are there.
অষ্টাদশ বর্ষ কেবল নীলাচলে স্থিতি, আপনি আচারি জীবে শিখাইল ভক্তি।
For 18 continuous years, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at Jagannath Puri, and through his personal behavior instructed all living entities in the mode of devotional service. The main purpose of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to teach devotional service of the highest order. That staying 18 years in Jagannath Puri and 6 years by traveling all over.
তার মধ্যে 6 বছর ভক্তগণ সঙ্গে প্রেম ভক্তি প্রবর্তাইল নৃত্য গীত রঙ্গে।
So out of these 18 years at Jagannath Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent 6 years with his many devotees. By chanting and dancing, he introduced the loving service of the Lord.
নিত্যানন্দ গোসাই রে পাঠাইল গড় দেশ, তেহ গড় দেশে ভাসাইল প্রেম রস।
Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent Nityananda Prabhu from Jagannath Puri to Bengal, which is known as Gauda Desha. And Lord Nityananda Prabhu overflooded that country with the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was staying in Puri, when devotees used to come to Bengal every year for the Rath Yatra and stay for the 4 months of the rainy season, Chaturmasya, and go back. So at one point, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that you need not come every year, you stay and preach, especially to Nityananda Prabhu. He told him to preach in Bengal. So thereafter, Nityananda Prabhu married Jannava and Vasudha, and he stayed in near to Calcutta. That place is named Kardaha. And then he preached all over Bengal.
সহজেই নিত্যানন্দ কৃষ্ণ প্রেমোদ্দাম, প্রভু আজ্ঞায় কইল যাহা তাহা প্রেম দান।
Sri Nityananda Prabhu is by nature very much inspired in rendering transcendental loving service to Lord Krishna. Just like Lakshmana accompanied Lord Rama, Balarama accompanies Lord Krishna, Nityananda Prabhu accompanies Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they are eternally in the Dham. In the spiritual world also, there is Goloka Dham, Gauranga Dham. Now, being ordered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he distributed this loving service anywhere and everywhere.
তাহার চরণে মোর কোটি নমস্কার, চৈতন্যের ভক্তি যেহ লাও আইলা সংসার।
I offer innumerable obeisances unto the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is so kind that he spread the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world.
চৈতন্য গোসাই জান রে বলে বড় ভাই, তেহ কহে মোর প্রভু চৈতন্য গোসাই।
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to address Nityananda Prabhu as his elder brother, whereas Nityananda Prabhu addressed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his Lord, because by age Nityananda Prabhu is senior to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Nityananda Prabhu considers Chaitanya Mahaprabhu his Lord because he is not different from Krishna.
যদ্যপি আপনি হয় প্রভু বলরাম, তথাপি চৈতন্য করে দাস অভিমান।
Although Nityananda Prabhu is none other than Balaram himself, he nonetheless always thinks of himself as the eternal servant of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
চৈতন্য সেবা চৈতন্য গাও লাও চৈতন্য নাম, চৈতন্য যে ভক্তি করে সেই মোর প্রাণ।
Nityananda Prabhu requested everyone to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chant his glories and utter his name. Nityananda Prabhu claimed that person to be his life and soul, who rendered devotional service unto Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So only business of Nityananda Prabhu was to request everyone to chant, to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chant his glories and utter his name. That is, chant the holy name, read the scriptures and worship Krishna.
এই মত লোকে চৈতন্য ভক্তি লাও আইলা, দীনহীন নিন্দক সবারে নিস্তারিল।
In this way, Sri Nityananda Prabhu introduced the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to everyone without discrimination. Normally we are hesitating, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would not discriminate. Even though the people were fallen souls and blasphemers, they were delivered by this process. So he had that ability to deliver all kinds of people.
তবে প্রভু ব্রজে পাঠাইল রূপ সনাতন, প্রভু আজ্ঞায় দুই ভাই আইল বৃন্দাবন।
Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then sent the two brothers, Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami, to Braja. By his order, they went to Sri Vrindavan Dham. So, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, the Tattvacharyas, that is, they established the Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, by writing the scriptures.
ভক্তি প্রচারিয়া সর্বতীর্থ প্রকাশিল, মদন গোপাল গোবিন্দের সেবা প্রচারিল। After going to Vrindavan, the brothers preached devotional service and discovered many places of pilgrimage. They specifically initiated the service of Madan Mohan and Govindaji.
So that is the specific role. They were ordered to write scriptures to elaborate on the process of devotion and to excavate the places because that time Vrindavan and all was a forest. So most of the temples, places, pastime places had become covered. So they excavated all those places. So even now, most of the pujaris are Bengalis.
নানা শাস্ত্র আনি কইল ভক্তি গ্রন্থ সার, মূঢ় অধম জনের দেহ করিল নিস্তার।
Both Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami brought various scriptures to Vrindavana and collected the essence of these by compiling many scriptures on devotional service. In this way, they delivered all rascals and fallen souls. Sri Srinivasacharya sung, Nana Shastra Vicharane Kanipuno Saddharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Dharanyakaro Radha Krishna Padara Vinda Bhajana Nandeda Mattadiko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugau Shri Jiva Gopalakau. The six Goswamis, under the direction of Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, studied various Vedic literatures and picked up the essence of them, the devotional service of the Lord. This means that all the Goswamis wrote many scriptures on devotional service with the support of the Vedic literature. Devotional service is not a sentimental activity. The essence of Vedic knowledge is devotional service as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Vedescha sarve ahameva vidya. All the Vedic literature aims at understanding Krishna, and how to understand Krishna through devotional service has been explained by Srila Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis with evidence from all Vedic literatures. They have put it so nicely that even a rascal or first-class fool can be delivered by devotional service under the guidance of the Goswamis. So their literature has made the devotion very interesting and good.
প্রভু আজ্ঞায় কইল সব শাস্ত্রের বিচার ব্রজের নিগুড় ভক্তি করিল প্রচার
The Goswamis carried out the preaching work of devotional service on the basis of an analytical study of all confidential Vedic literatures. The confidential means that part of the Vedas which is most useful, beneficial. They have analyzed it. This was in compliance with the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, one can understand the most confidential devotional service of Vrindavana. This proves that bona fide devotional service is based on the conclusions of the Vedic literature. It is not based on the type of sentiment exhibited by the Prakrita Sahajiyas. So in other words, devotion cannot be cheaply done. The Prakrita Sahajiyas do not consult the Vedic literatures and they are devotees. Even yesterday we discussed that the 17th chapter, Krishna says that those who do not follow scriptures are demoniac. So sometimes they give a theatrical performance and cry for the Lord with tears in their eyes. Of course, all scriptural conclusions are washed off by these tears. The Prakrita Sahajiyas do not realize that they are violating the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who specifically said that to understand Vrindavana and the pastimes of Vrindavana, one must have sufficient knowledge of the Shastras, Vedic literature. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1-12, Bhaktya Sutta Grihitaya, the devotional service is acquired from Vedic knowledge. Tat Shraddha Dana Munaya. Devotees who are actually serious attain bhakti, scientific devotional service, by hearing Vedic literature. Bhaktya Sutta Grihitaya. It is not that one should create something out of sentimentality, become a Sahajiya and advocate such concocted devotional service. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur considered such Sahajiyas to be more favorable than the impersonalists. So in one sense, somewhat they are better than those people who reject God, who are hopelessly atheist. The impersonalists have no idea of the Supreme Personality God. The position of the Sahajiyas is far better than that of the Mayavadi sannyasis. Although the Sahajiyas do not think much of Vedic knowledge, they nonetheless have accepted Lord Krishna as the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, they mislead others from authentic devotional service.
হরি ভক্তি বিলাস আর ভাগবতামৃত দাস দশম টিপ্পণী আর দশম চরিত
So what are the literatures written by the Goswamis? Some of the books compiled by Srila Sanatana Goswami were the Hari Bhakti Vilasa, Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Dashama Tippani, and Dashama Charita. In the first wave of the book written known as Bhakti Ratnakara, it is said that Sanatana Goswami understood Srimad Bhagavatam by thorough study and explained it in his commentary known as Vaishnava Toshani. So these are all written by Bhagavan Swami Maharaj has presented it in English. Sanatana Goswami understood Srimad Bhagavatam by thorough study and explained it in its commentary known as Vaishnava Toshani. All the knowledge that Srila Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami directly acquired from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was broadcast all over the world by their expert service. Sanatana Goswami gave his Vaishnava Toshani commentary to Srila Jiva Goswami for editing, and Srila Jiva Goswami edited this under the name of Laghu Toshani, Laghu Vaishnava Toshani. Whatever he immediately put down in writing was finished in the year 1476 Shaka, AD 1554. Srila Jiva Goswami completed the Laghu Toshani in the year 1582 AD. It took such a long time, almost 28 years. The subject matter of the Haribhakti Vilasa by Srila Sanatana Goswami was collected by Srila Gopala Bhatta Goswami and is known as Vaishnava Smriti. This Vaishnava Smriti Grantha was finished in 20 chapters, known as Vilasas. The first Vilasa.
In the first Vilas, there is a description of how a relationship is established between the spiritual master and the disciple, and mantras are explained. In the second Vilas, the process of initiation is described. In the third Vilas, the methods of Vaishnava behavior are given with emphasis on cleanliness, constant remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the chanting of the mantras given by the initiating spiritual master. In the fourth Vilas are descriptions of samskar, the reformatory method, tilak, the application of 12 tilaks on 12 places of the body, mudra, marks on the body, mala, chanting with beads, and guru puja, worship of the spiritual master. In the fifth Vilas, one is instructed on how to make a place to sit for meditation, and there are descriptions of breathing exercises, meditation, and worship of the Shaligram Shila, representation of Lord Vishnu. In the sixth Vilas, the required practices for inviting the transcendental form of the Lord and bathing him are given. In the seventh Vilas, one is instructed on how to collect flowers used for the worship of Lord Vishnu. In the eighth Vilas, there is a description of the deity and instructions on how to set up incense, light lamps, make offerings, dance, play music, beat drums, garland the deity, offer prayers and obeisances, and counteract offenses. In the ninth Vilas, there are descriptions about collecting tulsi leaves, offering oblations to forefathers according to Vaishnav rituals, and offering food. In the 10th Vilas, there are descriptions of the devotees of the Lord, Vaishnavas, or saintly persons. In the 11th Vilas, there are elaborate descriptions of deity worship and the glories of the holy name of the Lord. One is instructed on how to chant the holy name of the deity, and there are discussions about offenses committed while chanting the holy name, along with methods for getting relief from such offenses. There are also descriptions of the glories of devotional service and the surrendering process. In the 12th Vilas, Ekadashi is described. In the 13th Vilas, fasting is discussed as well as observance of the Mahadvadashi ceremony. In the 14th Vilas, different duties for different months are outlined. In the 15th Vilas, there are instructions on how to observe Ekadashi fasting without even drinking water. There are also descriptions of branding the body with the symbols of Vishnu, discussions of Chaturmasya observations during the rainy season, and discussions of Janmashtami, Parshvekadashi, Shravan Dwadashi, Ram Navami, and Vijay Dashmi. The 16 Vilas discusses duties to be observed in the month of Kartik, October, November, or the Damodar month or Urja, when lamps are offered in the deity room or above the temple. There are also descriptions of the Govardhan Puja and Rath Yatra. The 17th Vilas discusses preparations for deity worship, Mahamantra chanting, and the process of japa. In the 18th Vilas, the different forms of Sri Vishnu are described. The 19th Vilas discusses the establishment of the deity and the rituals observed in bathing the deity before installation. The 20th Vilas discusses the construction of temples, referring to those constructed by the great devotees.
The details of the Haribhakti Vilasa Grantha are given by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Madhya Lila, 24th chapter, 329 to 345. The description given in those verses by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami are actually a description of those portions compiled by Gopala Bhatta Goswami. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, the regulative principles of devotional service compiled by Gopala Bhatta Goswami do not strictly follow our Vaishnava principles. Because he is from the Sri Sampradaya, from Sri Rangam. Actually, Gopal Bhatta Goswami collected only a summary of the elaborate descriptions of Vaishnava regulative principles from the Hari Bhakti Vilasa. It is Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami's opinion, however, that to follow the Hari Bhakti Vilasa strictly is to actually follow the Vaishnava rituals in perfect order. He claimed that the Smarta Samaja, which is strictly followed by caste Brahmanas, has influenced portions that Gopala Bhatta Goswami collected from the original Hari Bhakti Vilasa. It is therefore very difficult. They follow the Smriti. It is therefore very difficult to find out Vaishnava directions from the book of Gopala Bhatta Goswami. It is better to consult the commentary made by Sanatana Goswami himself for the Haribhakti Vilasa under the name of Digdarshani Tika. Some say that the same commentary was compiled by Gopinath Puja Adhikari, who was engaged in the service of Sri Radha Ramanaji. Radharaman temple is also very famous. Some say that the same commentary was compiled by Gopinath Puja Adhikari, who was engaged in the service of Sri Radharamanji and who happened to be one of the disciples of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, because Radharaman was established by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Regarding the Brihat Bhagavatamrita, there are two parts, both of which deal with the discharge of devotional service. The first part is an analytical study of devotional service, in which there is also a description of different planets, including the Earth, the heavenly planets, Brahmaloka, Vishnu, Vaikuntha. There are also descriptions of the devotees, including intimate devotees, most intimate devotees, and complete devotees. The second part discusses the glories of the spiritual world known as Goloka Mahatmya Nirupana, as well as the process of renunciation of the material world. It also describes real knowledge, devotional service, the spiritual world, love of God, attainment of life's destination, and the bliss of the world. In this way, there are 7 chapters in each part, 14 chapters in all. The Dashama Tippani is a commentary on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Another name for this commentary is Brihat Vaishnava Toshini. In the Bhakti Ratnakara, it is said that the Dashama Tippani was finished in AD 1554.
এই সব গ্রন্থ কইল গোসাই সনাতন রূপ গোসাই কইল যত কে করু কর্ণন.
So all these were the books compiled by Sanatana Goswami. We have already given the names of 4 books compiled by Sanatana Goswami. That is Haribhakti Vilasa, then
Brihat
Bhagavatamrita, Raghu Vaishnava Toshini, Brihat Vaishnava Toshini, Dashama Tippani. We have already given the names of 4 books compiled by Sanatana Goswami. Similarly, Srila Rupa Goswami has also compiled many books which no one can even count.
প্রধান প্রধান কিছু করিয়ে গণন লক্ষ গ্রন্থে কইল ব্রজ বিলাস বর্ণন.
I shall therefore enumerate the chief books compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami. He has described the pastimes of Vrindavana in 1 lakh verses.
रसामृत सिंधु आर विदग्ध माधव उज्ज्वल नीलामणि आर ललिता माधव.
The books compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami include the Bhakta Rasamrita Sindhu, Vidagdha Madhava, Ujjwala Neelamani, and Lalita Madhava. So all these books are currently available.
दान केली कौमुदी आर बहु स्तवावली अष्टादश लीला छंद आर पद्यावली गोविंद विरुदावली ताहार लक्षण मथुरा महात्म्य आर नाटक वर्णन.
Srila Rupa Goswami also compiled the Danakeli Kaumudi. Danakeli means, I think it's a tax pastimes. Lord Krishna demands tax from the gopis. Tavavali, Lila Chanda, Padyavali, Govinda Virudavali, Mathura Mahatmya, and Nataka Varna.
লঘু ভাগবতামৃতাদি কে করু গণন সর্বত্র করিল ব্রজ বিলাস বর্ণন.
Who can count the rest of the books headed by Laghu Bhagavatamrita written by Srila Rupa Goswami? He has described the pastime Vrindavana in all of them. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given a description of these books. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is a great book of instruction on how to develop devotional service to Lord Krishna and follow the transcendental process. It was finished in the year 1541 AD. This book is divided into 4 parts: Purva Bhaga, Eastern Division; Dakshina Bhaga, Southern Division; Paschima Bhaga, Western Division; and Uttara Bhaga, Northern Division. In the Purva Vibhaga, there is a description of the permanent development of devotional service. That's what we normally read, the first part. The general description of devotional service, the execution of devotional service, ecstasy in devotional service, and ultimately the attainment of love of God are described. In this way, there are 4 laharis or waves in this division of the ocean of nectar of devotion. In the Dakshina Vibhaga, southern division, there is a general description of the mellow relationship called Bhakti Rasa, which is derived from devotional service. It is the five mellows, Santa Dasya, Satya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. There are also descriptions of the stages known as Vibhava, Anubhava, Satvika, Vyabhichari, and Sthaya Bhava. All of these, all on this high platform of devotional service. Thus, there are five waves in the Dakshina Vibhaga division, southern. The western division, Paschima Vibhaga, there is a description of the chief transcendental humors derived from devotional service. These are known as Mukhya Bhakti, Rasa Nirupana, or attainment of the chief humors or feelings in the execution of devotional service. The chief humors. In that part, there is a description of devotional service in neutrality. It is Santa Dasya, Akya Vatsalya, Madhya. Further development in love and affection called servitude, further development in fraternity, that's parenthood, further development in parenthood or parental love, and finally conjugal love between Krishna and his devotees. Thus, there are five waves in the western division. In the northern division, Uttara Vibhaga, there is the description of the indirect mellows of devotional service. That is seven secondary rasas, namely devotional service in laughter, devotional service in wonder, devotional service in chivalry, pity, anger, dread, and costliness. There are also mixing of mellows and the transgression of different humors. The sabas, bhakti abha. Thus, there are 9 waves in this part. This is but a brief outline of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu.
The Vidakt Madhava is a drama of Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. Srila Rupa Goswami finished this book in the year AD 1532. The first part of this drama is called Venu Nada Vilas, the second part Manmatha Lekha, the third part Radha Sang, and the fourth part Venu Haran, the fifth part Radha Prasadan, the sixth part Sharad Vihar, and the seventh and last part Gauri Vihar. There is also a book called Ujjwal Neelamani, a transcendental account of loving affairs that includes metaphor, analogy, and higher bhakti sentiments. Devotional service and conjugal love is described briefly in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but it is very elaborately discussed in Ujjwal Neelamani. This book describes the different types of lovers, their assistants, and those who are very dear to Krishna. There is also a description of Srimati Radharani and other female lovers, as well as various group leaders. Messengers and the constant associates, as well as others who are very dear to Krishna, are all described. The book also relates how love of Krishna is awakened and describes the ecstatic situation, the devotional situation, permanent ecstasy, disturbed ecstasy, steady ecstasy, different positions of different dresses, feelings of separation, prior attraction, anger in attraction, varieties of loving affairs, separation from the beloved, meeting with the beloved, and both direct and indirect enjoyment between the lover and the beloved. All this has been very elaborately described.
So now this beauty is in these books, you just have to read and hear. It's very difficult, but just by hearing, you can absorb it. That is the way they are written. Similarly, the Lila Madhava is a description of Krishna's pastimes in Dwarka. These pastimes were made into a drama and the work was finished in the year 1459 Shakabda. 78 years we should add approximately to get the India. The first part of deals with the festivities in the evening, the second with the killing of the Shankachuda, the third with the madam Srimati Radharani, the fourth with Radharani's proceeding toward Krishna, the fifth with the achievement of Chandravali, the sixth with the achievement of Lalita, the seventh with the meeting in Navavrindavan, eighth with the enjoyment in Navavrindavan, ninth with looking over pictures, and tenth with complete satisfaction of the mind. Thus, the entire drama is divided into 10 parts. So basically, they have given so much literature that we can always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. The Laghu Bhagavatam is divided into 2 parts. The first is called the Nectar of Krishna, the second, the Nectar of Devotional Service. The importance of Vedic evidence is stressed in the first part, and this is followed by a description of the original form of the Supreme Personality Godhead as Sri Krishna and descriptions of his pastimes and expansions in Swamsa, personal, and Vivinnamsha. According to different absorptions, the incarnations are called Avesha and Tadekatma. The first incarnation divided into three Purushavataras, namely Mahavishnu, Garbhodaka Sai, and Chirodaka Sai Vishnu. Then there are the three incarnations of the modes of nature, that is Gunavataras, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. All the paraphernalia used in the service of the Lord is transcendental beyond the three qualities of this material world. There is also the description of 25 Lila avatars, namely Chatushana. The 25 Lila avatars are the Kubara, Sanat Kumara, Sanandana, Sanatana, Narada, Varaha, Matsya, Yajna, Naranarayana Rishi, Kapila, Dattatreya, Hayagriva, Hamsa, Prashnigarba, Rishabha, Prithu, Nisimha, Kurma, Dhanvantari, Mohini, Vamana, Parshurama, Dasharati, Krishna Dvaipayana, Balarama, Vasudeva, Buddha, and Kalki. There are also 14 Manvantara incarnations. Yagna, Vibhu, Satyasena, Hari, Vaikunta, Ajita, Vamana, Sarabhauma, Rishabha, Vishwaksena, Dharmasetu, Sudhama, Yogeshwara, and Brihat. There are also, so some of these names are repeated. So one is Lila, they come several times. There are also 4 incarnations for the 4 yugas, Yugavataras, and their colors are displayed. White, red, blackish, and black, sometimes yellow, as in the case of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are different types of millenniums, that is known as, and incarnations for those millenniums. Categories are called Avesha, Prabhava, Vaibhava, and Para, constitute different situations for the different incarnations. The millennium is Manvantara avatars. According to specific pastime, the names are specifically empowered. There are also descriptions of the difference between the powerful and the power and the inconceivable activities of the Supreme Lord. Sri Krishna is the original Supreme Personality God, and no one is greater than him. He is the source of all incarnations. In the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, there are descriptions of his partial incarnations, a description of the impersonal Brahman effulgence, the bodily effulgence of Sri Krishna. The super excellence of Sri Krishna's pastimes as an ordinary human being with 2 hands and so forth. There is nothing to compare with the 2-armed form of the Lord. In the spiritual world, Vaikuntha Jagat, there is no distinction between the owner of the body and the body itself. In the material world, the owner of the body is called the soul and the body is called the material manifestation. In Vaikuntha world, however, there is no such distinction. Lord Sri Krishna is unborn and his appearance as an incarnation is perpetual. Krishna's pastimes are divided into 2 parts, manifest and unmanifest. For example, when Krishna takes his birth within his material world, his pastimes are considered to be manifest. However, when he disappears, one should not think that he is finished, for his pastimes are going on in an unmanifest form. Varieties of humors, however, are enjoyed by the devotees and Lord Krishna during his manifest pastimes. After all, his pastimes in Mathura, Vrindavan, Dwarka are eternal and are going on perpetually somewhere in some part of the universe. So, what is the benefit of reading all this? It is happening somewhere in some part of the universe. So, we are discussing the reality. It's not that it is just a time pass.
तांड भ्रातुष पुत्र नाम श्रीजीव गोसाई जतो भक्ति ग्रंथ कोइलो तार अंत नाई.
So having talked about Sanatana Goswami, the elder brother, then Rupa Goswami, the younger brother, then they had another brother, Anupama. He had a son named Jiva Goswami, and he is the nephew of Rupa and Sanatana. Srila Rupa Goswami's nephew, Srila Jiva Goswami, has compiled so many books on devotional service that there is no counting them. All the Sandarbhas, 6 Sandarbhas are there. That is by Jiva Goswami.
श्री भागवत संदर्भ नाम ग्रंथ विस्तार भक्ति सिद्धांते रताते देखी आई छेन पार.
In Sri Bhagavata Sandarbha, the Jiva Goswami is written conclusively about the ultimate end of devotional service. So we have Tattva Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha, Bhagavat Sandarbha, Preeti Sandarbha, Bhagavata Sandarbha, like that, 6 Sandarbhas. The Bhagavat Sandarbha is also known as the Sat Sandarbha. The first part called Tattva Sandarbha, it is proved that Srimad Bhagavatam is the most authoritative evidence directly pointing to the absolute truth. So here Prabhupada is elaborating. The first part called Tattva Sandarbha is proved. It is proved that Srimad Bhagavatam is the most authoritative evidence directly pointing to the absolute truth. The second Sandarbha, called Bhagavat Sandarbha, draws a distinction between impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma and describes the spiritual world and the domination of the mode of goodness, devoid of contamination by the other two material modes. Uh, In other words, there is a vivid description of the transcension known as Shuddha Sattva. Material goodness is apt to be contaminated by the other two material qualities, ignorance and passion. But when one is situated in the Shuddha Sattva platform, there is no chance for such contamination. It is a spiritual platform of pure goodness. The potency of the Supreme Lord and the living entity is also described. And there is a description of the inconceivable energies and the varieties of energies of the Lord. The potencies are divided into categories: internal, external, personal, marginal, and so forth. There are also discussions of the eternality of deity worship. The omnipotence of the deity is all pervasiveness, is giving shelter to everyone, subtle and gross potencies, personal manifestations, expressions of form, quality, and pastime. His transcendental position is complete form. It is also stated that everything pertaining to the absolute has the same potency and that the spiritual world, the associates in the spiritual world, and the threefold energies of the Lord in the spiritual world are all transcendental. There are further discussions concerning the difference between the impersonal Brahman and the personality of Godhead, the fullness of the personality of Godhead, the objective of all Vedic knowledge, the personal potencies of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead as the original author of Vedic knowledge. Basically, it's about Bhagavan feature of the Lord. That's the Bhagavad Sandarbha.
The third Sandarbha is called Paramatma Sandarbha, and in this book, there is explanation of how the supersoul exists in millions and millions of living entities. In this connection, opinion all the devoid of material qualities superintends all material activities. There is also a discussion of how the Lila avatar incarnations respond to the desires of the devotees and how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is characterized by six opulences. The fourth Sandarbha is called Krishna Sandarbha. Krishna's and other expansions of Krishna are emanations of Mahasankarshan. All the incarnations and expansions exist simultaneously in the body of Krishna, who is described as two-handed. There are also descriptions of the Golok planet, Vrindavan, the eternal place of Krishna, the identity of Golok and Vrindavan, the Yadavas, and the cowherd boys, both eternal associates of Krishna. The equality of the manifest and unmanifest pastimes, Shri Krishna's manifestation in Gokul, the queens of Dwarka as expansions of the internal potency, and superior to them, the super excellent gopis. There is also a list of the gopis' names and the discussion of the topmost position of Srimati Radharani.
The fifth Sandarbha is called Bhakti Sandarbha, and in this book there is a discussion of how devotional service can be directly executed and how such service can be adjusted either directly or indirectly. There is a discussion of the knowledge of all kinds of scripture, establishment of the Vedic institution of Varnashrama, bhakti as superior to fruitive activity, and so forth. It is also stated that without devotional service, even a Brahmana is condemned. There are discussions of the process of Karma Yoga, the giving of the results of karma to the Supreme Personality Godhead, the practice of mystic yoga and philosophical speculation, which are deprecated as simply hard labor. Worship of the demigods is discouraged, and worship of Vaishnava is considered exalted. No respect is given to the non devotees. There are discussions of how one can be liberated even in this life, Jivan Mukta, Lord Shiva, or a devotee, and um, Lord Shiva as a devotee and how a bhakta and his devotional service are eternally existing. It is said that through bhakti one can attain all success because bhakti is transcendental to the material qualities. There is a discussion of how the self is manifest through bhakti. There is also a discussion of the self's bliss as well as how bhakti, even imperfectly executed, enables one to attain the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unmotivated devotional service is highly praised, and an explanation is given of how each devotee can achieve the platform of unmotivated service by association with other devotees. There is a discussion of the difference between the Mahabharata and the ordinary devotee, symptoms of philosophical speculation, symptoms of self-worship or ahangoprasana, symptoms of devotional service, imaginary perfection, acceptance of regulative principles, service to the spiritual master, Mahabharata, liberated devotee, and service to him, service to Vaishnavas in general, the principles of hearing, chanting, remembering, and serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offenses in worship, offensive effects, prayers, engaging oneself as the eternal servant of the Lord, making friendship with the Lord, and surrendering everything for His pleasure. There is also discussion of Raghanuga Bhakti, spontaneous love of God, of the specific purpose of becoming a devotee of Lord Krishna, and a comparative study of other perfectional stages. The sixth Sandarbha is called Preeti Sandarbha, a thesis on love of God. Here it is stated that although love of God, through love of God, one becomes perfectly liberated and attains the highest goal of life. Distinction is made between liberated condition of a personalist and that of an impersonalist, and there is a distinction of liberation during one's lifetime as distinguished from liberation from material bondage. Of all kinds of liberation, liberation is in loving service to the Lord is described as the most exalted, and meeting the Supreme Personality of God face to face is shown to be the highest perfection of life. Immediate liberation is contrasted with liberation by a gradual process. Both realization of Brahman and meeting with the Supreme Personality Godhead are described as liberation within one's lifetime. But meeting with the Supreme Personality Godhead, both internally and externally, is shown to be super excellent above the transcendental realization of the Brahman effulgence. There is a comparative study of liberation as Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya. Samipya is better than Salokya. Devotional service is considered to be liberation from greater facilities, and there's a discussion of how to obtain it. There are also discussions of the transcendental state one achieves after attaining the devotional platform, which is the exact position of love of God, the marginal symptoms of transcendental love and how it is awakened, the distinction between so-called love and transcendental love on the platform of love of God, and different types of humors and bellows enjoyed in relishing the lusty affairs of the gopis, which are different from mundane affairs, which in turn are symbolical representations of pure love for Krishna. There are also discussions of bhakti mixed with the philosophical speculation, that is Yoga Mishra Bhakti, and Jnana Vishnu Bhakti, super excellence of the love of the gopis, the difference between opulent devotional service and loving devotional service, exalted position of the residents of Gokula, the progressively exalted position of the friends of Krishna, Gopas and Gopis in parental love with Krishna, and finally the super excellence of the love of the Gopis and that of Srimati Radharani. There is also discussion of how spiritual feelings can be present when one simply imitates them, and how such mellows are far superior to the ordinary mellows of mundane love, and there are descriptions of different ecstasies, awakening of ecstasy, transcendental qualities, distinction of zero data, utmost attractiveness of conjugal love, ecstatic features, permanent ecstatic features, mellows divided in five transcendental features of direct loving service and indirect loving service, considered in seven divisions. Finally, there is a discussion of overlapping of different rasas, and there are discussions of Santa, neutrality, servitorship, taking shelter, parental love, conjugal love, direct transcendental enjoyment, and enjoyment in separation. That is Sambhoga and Vipralasa of previous attraction and the Purvaraga and glories of Srimati Radharani.
Hare Krishna. So there are four messages. Let us just take a look.
So,
Why soul cannot come to this material world with same body which is there in the spiritual world? Because the qualities of the material world and the qualities of the spiritual world are different. In the material world, you need this material body to enjoy. In the spiritual world, that enjoyment was not enough. And this is like when you enter a jail, you have to wear the jail dress. No, this is the jail dress.
yeah, for the liberated souls, they come with the same body, spiritual body. But because we don't want that, we want to enjoy. We don't want to enjoy with Krishna, then we are given a body with which you can enjoy in this material world. So,
Also, we say soul can be considered as in spiritual world Once he reached certain realization, qualification, even after being in this material body, for him there is no difference in material world and spiritual world.
Okay, so by devotion, the senses become spiritualized. You know? He's having a material body, but that material body becomes spiritualized, just like iron in contact with fire. So, yeah, my sister has copied some references. There's a distinct difference between the material and spiritual senses. One should understand it without denying the spiritual senses because of a material conception. Huh? All the senses, both of the Lord and the devotees, are without material contamination. They are so because they are beyond the material cause and effects as clearly mentioned herein. And the illusory material energy cannot work there, being ashamed before the Lord and his transcendental devotees. In the material world, the sense activities are not without grief. But here is clear that the senses of the Lord and the devotees are without any grief. So there's a distinction between the material and spiritual senses, and one should understand it without denying the spiritual senses because of a material conception. Basically, we cannot understand about the spiritual senses because right now we are possessing a material body and material mind. In this world, there is a distinction between the material and the spiritual soul, but in the spiritual world, everything is spiritual and there is no such differences. One who thinks that there is a difference between Lord Vishnu's body and his soul dwells in the darkest region of bliss. So thank you for joining us. So next week there are some important programs. That is on May 28th. Caitanya is having initiations for many devotees from Tamil Nadu. And 29th there will be the celebration of the 10th anniversary of the inauguration of Caitanya temple. And so the many services and some devotees have volunteered. So, one important announcement is we are planning to do Jagannath Theatre Festival in IIT Madras at the community hall. We are trying to book the hall on July 3rd, Sunday. July 1st is the Rath Yatra day, but we are planning to do on Sunday immediately after that, that is on July 3rd. So this is the first time we are celebrating Rath Yatra